Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Welcome to Fanzone. Welcome to a live stream. We haven't done this in a while. Well, of course, we did do it after the game on Monday night. Arsenal did get the big win at Palace. It's been a while since we've just come to you with some news, with some lots of rumours murmuring in the background, an opportunity to hear your thoughts on it all, not just talk about the on-pitch action. There's plenty happening off it as well. Me and Laurie reuniting for the first time in a while here at the very, very hot studio. If you're in London or in England, it's hot, isn't it? I mean, summer just disappeared for a month and now it's back.
Wow. I mean, listen, I love the heat, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm not very keen on the cold, but even me today, I'm sweating, man. But you know what? I'd rather this than the cold, I've got to say.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely very hot.
So I'm not going to complain too much, because in probably a couple of months' time, man, we'll be sitting there in this same seat, feeling cold and complaining and all the rest of it. So. Yeah. Well, we always complain, don't we? We're Arsenal fans. It's hotting up in the transfer market too. Did you like that? Did you like that pun? Yeah,
hotting.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Smash the like button if you like my pun. It's hotting up in the transfer market, and not so much on the incomings front. Arsenal actually have slowed things down in that sense. I think there is a feeling of let's really get the outgoings done before we can maybe even entertain one or two more. I actually, as we edge close to the window, I do feel like with it only being a week and 2 days out till deadline day, and we're not really hearing any murmurs of Arsenal wanting to do any more business, I kind of think they're done. I thought David Raya, that signing, even that was kind of almost like a cherry on top. It felt like an extra that we didn't expect. But
certainly
the topic
come from left field.
It did.
See it.
But the outcomings is starting to pick up, and the news, we're going to touch on Balogun, but there is a bidding war for Folarin Balogun, which we're going to touch on, and Nicolas Pepe, who only a few days ago seemed like he was going to be reintegrated into the first team squad in some way, shape or form. Apparently, an unnamed club from Saudi Arabia is willing to spend a transfer fee and bring him out of the club. Would you want to start, Balogun or Pepe?
Let's start with Balogun, because the reason why I'm interested in the Balogun stuff is because you speak to so many different fans and you get so many differences of opinion, and no one truly knows what's going on. I mean, I've heard all sorts of things being mentioned, from there's a problem between him and the manager, he needs to go. Some people say he needs to be given an opportunity, and I must admit, I kind of came down on that side myself. I was a little bit confused as to why he's not really been given a chance. I think it's fair to say. Do you think I'm being speaking out of turn or what?
I think it's fair to ask why we didn't see more of him in pre-season, to at least determine for ourselves whether he was ready or not. It felt like a decision had been made, and we don't know whether that decision was made by Arteta and Edu deciding, look, here's a player that we don't really fancy, so let's not really get him too involved and see if we can find a buyer. But the talk has really actually been that he's the one who's pushing for this move because he wants to be a first-team player and he wants to have guaranteed minutes. And quite frankly, he's competing with Gabriel Jesus, Eddie Nketiah, Kai Havertz and Leandro Trossard. That's four other players who could play up front. And they've all had minutes up front in some capacity, whether it be pre-season or throughout the season. And Balogun hasn't really. So I can see and understand why Balogun doesn't want to. Why he doesn't want to stay and he wants to go somewhere he's a guaranteed starter. I do think what's interesting is a very reliable ITK on Twitter had said that actually things behind the scenes aren't bad. He's got a perfectly fine working relationship with Arteta and Edu. All parties are just happy to make this deal done, but the thing is they've got to make it happen at a fee that works for everyone, and Arsenal are demanding around 50 million for him.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, let's look at it logically here. So he wasn't figuring much, okay? And then he got the opportunity to go out and loan. He'd previously gone out and loaned to Middlesbrough. I think it was 18 appearances, 3 goals. But then he gets an opportunity to go out to France. I think it's Reims, is it? Reims, I hope I haven't butchered that name.
I pronounce it, yeah.
So he gets a season out there.
Robbie says it's Rams.
Rams, okay.
I don't believe him.
It looks more like Reims to me, but let's say Rams, right? He's gone out there, 37 appearances, 21 goals. Now that's very good, isn't it? Let's be honest, less than 1 in 2. So you would have thought, coming back, he would sort of figure in pre-season a bit more prominently than he did. So I can't understand, given the injury to Gabriel, given that we are a little light up top. You've got a guy that's proven that he can score goals. At the top level. I mean, okay, some people would say that France is not the Premier League, And yes, I get that. But even so, it is top flight football. He did go out there. He's done very well.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, there's a number of clubs that are interested in signing him.
Mm-hmm. Well, should we go through them?
Yeah,
we know we know Monaco are coming in with another £35 million or even above £35 million bid.
They previously submitted a bid and we turned that down. I think it was 33, 34 million, something like that.
So they're coming in for a bid that's going to be over £35 million, according to TalkSport. Sky Sports also reporting that talks are advancing between Monaco and Balogun. Now, we know Chelsea are interested, but according to Sky, Arsenal are charging Chelsea a premium. There's well, hold on. If he goes to you, there's a little bit more risk attached to that, and therefore the price goes up. He costs more for you. And I actually don't mind that. We paid £65 million for Havertz, which I think is a lot of money. I don't mind us returning the favour. Chelsea are the kind of club that I can imagine getting desperate. I'm just not sure they'll get desperate for Balogun. And Fulham apparently also want to do a deal at around £35 million. And again, I'm not sure we would charge Fulham quite the same as Chelsea. Where do you stand on...
sorry to interrupt, but I've also heard Inter Milan were interested, as were West Ham.
West Ham were, and I think are keeping an eye on it. Inter Milan, I think, have pulled out because they just know they're not going to be able to afford him no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
where would you like him to go?
That's 5 clubs that we've listed that seem, that would appear to think that Balogun would enhance their club. On the other hand, you've got Arsenal, and as I said previously, we appear to be, lacking in attacking options given the injury to, or maybe not, but so it would appear. So I do find it somewhat surprising that Balogun's not been given more minutes. And I, like I said, I've spoken to various people about this, and the things that people say in response is, well, he's not quite at the level that Arteta's looking at. Some people have said that there might be a difference of opinion between him and the manager, and that's led to a bit of a breakdown in communication between them. Some of people have said, let's sell him, get as much as we can, and look for somebody a bit more prolific. But it does surprise me that he's not been given more minutes.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. We've got some callers waiting, so we're gonna speak to the callers and we'll do the Pepe chat after. And of course, you can all call in to chat about Pepe if you want as well. If you're all wondering what I'm talking about, if it's the first time you are joining us for AFTV Fanzone, you can download the AFTV Plus apps completely free to do that, whether you've got an Android or Apple device, and then you can sign up to AFTV. Well, AFTV Plus is the app. You can sign up to Fanzone. Very easy to do. Again, all completely free. And you can join us live here on AFTV right now as we're speaking and chat and give your thoughts on anything that's happening. You get the opportunity to have your say here on Fanzone, whether it's after the games. We're going to be running 2 of these roughly a week. And, of course, we have Twitter Space as well. So plenty of opportunities to have your say. And don't forget, sometimes Cecil's lurking out the ground. He's wandering around North London with a mic trying to talk to Arsenal fans. That's an opportunity to get on the Arsenal fans as well. And there'll be lots and lots of opportunities coming to have your say here on AFTV. Let's do it. Let's talk to some fans as I look for my headphones. Where are they?
Should be underneath.
I found them. Right. Let's talk to some fans. If I can get these on. I can hear.
You.
Arjun's up first. Let's get Arjun. Arjun, how you doing?
Hey, yeah, great. How you doing?
Very, very, very good. You want to chat Balogun?
Yeah. So I've actually been on before, and I think I spoke about Balogun and Caicedo.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. On the one hand, like I have 2 different opinions. On the one hand, I'm like Balogun, he did well in France, but like Pepe also did well in France, and so many other players have as well. And I'm like, well, maybe he does deserve a chance. But on the other hand, then like, I don't know what it is. For some reason, I just don't get a good vibe from the player. I feel like he is someone who could have attitude problems. Like, I don't know, I have Instagram, and like every time I've seen his profile, it'd be like a different profile picture, or like Arsenal and then US, and then like, he just changes everything up, and it seems like, I don't know, I don't think he's 100% set. And whereas a lot of other players are, like the Declan Rice, Saka, or even when a lot of these players weren't getting guaranteed minutes, and yeah, I just don't see that from him like 100%. Like Kieran Tierney, for example, he doesn't get the minutes that he may deserve. Some people think he deserves more minutes, but some people don't. But you don't see him like changing his Instagram, or like I don't know if do you guys see that ever with Balogun?
So there have been a few things on Instagram. Like I think he posted on his story, or maybe it was that on the Instagram Twitter equivalent. He basically posted his like market value. So I think this was around the time that Arsenal were sort of forming fees that they were sort of quoting to clubs, and that emerged, and everyone sort of thought, well, what's that about? I think Michaela Mudryk did a similar thing when Arsenal were chasing him. He's been very outspoken. There's no doubt about that, about wanting to play, about sort of leaving his future in the hands of others. He just wants to play football. And it's always felt to me. I don't think he said these words. It's always felt to me that's a bit like, whether it's Arsenal or not, I want to play football. And yeah, if I get my opportunity here, I'll play here. And I don't think that's a bad mentality, Laurie. But I don't think that's the mentality Arteta and Edu want. I think Arteta and Edu want I will be on the bench and I will wait and be patient and fight because this is the club where I want to make it work. No, there's no right or wrong. I mean, loyalty in football is, we don't need to say more on it. So maybe there's a refreshing honesty about it. But I think for Arteta and Edu, they really do value that highly in a player.
Yeah, I mean, listen, first and foremost, he's a professional footballer. He's at that age, 22. He wants to play football, and he's trying to make that clear without actually saying it, which might indicate the Instagram post and all the rest of it. But I'm sure that his view will be that, look, I went out on loan, I did well, I've proven that I can score goals, I need the opportunity, I want to play football. And I'm sort of coming around to the school of thought that he's saying, he hasn't actually said it, but he may be intimating to the club, well, if I can't get a chance to play here, then maybe I'll be best served playing elsewhere. Now, where it could get a bit sticky is how he's communicated that to the manager in the club. You highlighted the differences in between personas like Kieran Tierney, who are, how best to articulate this is that whereas Tierney might, keep his counsel and not say too much, maybe, and I don't know, so it would be remiss for me to carry on like I do know, but it could be that Balogun, on the other hand, is agitating a bit more, and we don't know what goes on at the ground and in the conversations with the manager, but he might be a little bit more forceful, shall we say.
I think it's fair to say that that's the impression, but I want to be careful because that's not always fair.
Yeah, I'm very keen to add.
That is my impression as well. Yeah. And that was my same exact impression with Caicedo. First saying he wanted Arsenal and then saying, oh, it's my dream to play for Chelsea. Kind of just saying whatever just to get the minutes at a big club. That's what I said before last time I was on as well. I just see that same thing with Balogun and Caicedo. I could be completely wrong. I don't know anything, obviously.
I think where I'd give Balogun credit, sorry to cut you, where I'd give Balogun credit though is, like you said, he's a professional footballer, Laurie, who's, I think, probably thinking of his career first above anything, and I get that. Some players might have this sense of, no matter what, I want to make it work at Arsenal, whereas other players might have this, no matter what, I want to make it work. And I think it's fair to have this mentality of, you know what, I'm 21 years old, I'm really ready to show I can lead the line somewhere, and I know that's not coming here. And I'm allowed to think that that's a shame. I want him to want to make it work here, but I can think that without also thinking that that's wrong of it. It's just how I wish it was, but it's not that way, and that's fine. Arjun, I want to give you 3 offers now. I want to know which one you're accepting. Are you ready? I want to offer you.
Yeah.
30 million from Monaco, 35 million from Fulham, 50 million from Chelsea. Which one are you accepting?
I would say probably the 35 from Fulham. I don't want him to go to Chelsea. If he turned out to be, play really well for them, I can just see Chelsea fans just just going all over our Instagram, doing all that, or just in general. I don't want that. I don't like when players sell to rivals. I hate that Dortmund sells so much to Bayern. I think it's dumb. I think it makes no sense. And I don't want to ever sell to Tottenham, Chelsea, even United. Especially those 3. I don't want anything to do with them. So I would probably take the 35 from Fulham. What do you guys think?
I think in an ideal world you would opt for the bigger money, but it would depend on just how much Arsenal and the manager rate the player. I mean, they might say a word where we're prepared to let him go. I mean, let's face it, we got Havertz for 65 mil. they might say to themselves, well, we have a fairly good relationship in terms of doing business with Chelsea. We don't mind letting the player go because we've got our eyes on somebody else who we think it would be a better option than Balogun. But the club do need to be careful about this because, as you said, if Balogun goes across London to the west side, the blue half, and starts to do really well,
after you gave him 65 minutes to have
exactly.
Yeah,
then there will
pressure.
no doubt be egg on our faces. So it's quite a sensitive thing there.
Arjun, we're losing video connection a little bit there, although we can hear you just about. But it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you, man. Thank you. Yeah, the internet's.
I think that strikes me.
I just want to read
The
this.
thing that strikes me as a little odd is that we've not really given the player a chance to show what he can do.
I think that's true, and
I think I'm just wondering what the reason is behind that.
There's a comment here from PG says there's no evidence that he has some crazy ego. People, I agree with him that there is no evidence that he does. There have just been little things that you go, I probably wouldn't have done it that way, and you hear things you go, oh, it's a shame that you're thinking it more that way than this way. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm very nervous to run this narrative of like, oh, but he's desperate to leave and he's causing scenes behind. He's not behind the scenes.
I don't get that impression at all. What I do get though is a young man that's ambitious. He's confident. He believes in himself, and he's going to throw the numbers up. You know what I mean? I mean, like he's going to say to the likes of Arteta and Edu and people like that, or anyone in the hierarchy, look, you sent me on loan to develop me as a player. I've gone out on loan. In top flight football, again, let's not get it twisted. The French league is not as strong as the Premier League. However, it is one of the more high profile leagues in Europe. He's gone out there, he's done very well. As I said, was it 21 goals in 30 odd appearances, less than 1 in 2. So, he's shown that he can go out there and do stuff. So he's saying, okay, at the very least, give me an opportunity to show what I can do in an Arsenal shirt. Arsenal is the club he was there. He's been there since he's been 8 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he wants to play for the club, but he's also saying, well, I would imagine he's saying that if I can't get an opportunity to play at the club I love, then maybe the time has come for me to be moved on.
Just so you know, a little bit of breaking news. We know that obviously Jurrien Timber suffered that terrible knee injury. We're hoping for a very swift return, but it won't be. It's going to take 6+ months, maybe 7. Julio Enciso has suffered a knee injury as well. We know that's the Brighton number 10, broke into the team last season, and got some fantastic assists against Wolves on the weekend. There's a statement, Enciso has suffered trauma to his left knee in one of his club's training sessions. He's being assisted and evaluated by the Brighton medical team. Knee injuries are on the up, and I'm not saying they're necessarily linked, but we're here where there's so much conversation around how much football's being played, time added on, more fixtures in the calendar than ever before, more coming next year with the new Champions League format. There's been sort of like 3 years straight of football, and of course the pandemic played a part in that. And we're kind of seeing a lot of knee injuries very early in seasons, whether it's Militao, Courtois, Timber. Who came off for Chelsea? Did Chukwuemeka come off with a knee injury?
Yeah. De Bruyne has had injuries. De
Bruyne a hamstring injury. So, yeah. Let's get back to our next caller.
Just on that, you do make a very good point there. I mean, it is strange that these injuries are occurring, or maybe not so strange, because as we all know, these guys, they play hard, they train hard, and there's that old adage that says that those highly tuned athletes there's a very thin line between high level of fitness and injury. You just tip over the top a little bit, and injuries result. So maybe it's not such a surprise after all.
Let's. Do we have any callers to chat Balogun? Let's get Max on. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How you guys doing today?
Yeah, good. I'm going to ask you a question now. You're ready. The bids are coming in. What's your price for Balogun? We're edging towards 9 days left, or 8 days left. There's about a week to go to get this wrapped up. Things, I know deadline day can be crazy, but I think bigger deals, we're talking about selling to clubs abroad or whatever, they can be more complicated. Decisions have to be made soon. What are you accepting?
Do you know what? I think kind of looking at the situation, the kind of context of everything, I think we have to be going for at least like 60 upwards It's just kind of the situation where,
Wow.
do you know what? It's one of those situations where I'm looking at, the Hoyland deal kind of going through. You know what? He hasn't probably has done as much as even Balogun, where he's only scored, I think, like 9 league goals in Serie A. And then also a lot of people are forgetting that he's kind of the new poster boy for the American football team, kind of the national team. So this guy is going to get a lot of that, marketability, and there's a lot of those key factors. So I think, you know what, we got to wait at least 3-4 days, kind of push it towards the end. I think the kind of only drawback is who are we going to bring in? And I think kind of with the situation, we're not really linked with anybody kind of going in terms of that striker. So I just think we got to push around the whole team and maybe go in eventually for like somewhere like left back or central midfield again.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, where we look elsewhere is key. But I'm going to push you a little bit here because, you said, 60 upwards, sure. But, okay, let's say those days pass. We're nearing to the end of the window. How much would you accept? You're pushing it here. They're only knocking on the door at 25, 30 or whatever. What is the absolute lowest you'd go to before you actually decide he's just maybe worth keeping and seeing if you can get something out of him?
I think it definitely goes into that 40 kind of bracket. For me, kind of the Monaco things, we kind of have to understand that it's probably gonna be less. They're not gonna be looking to spend as more. I think if we're pushing for those teams like Chelsea, we just kind of got to be up in it and just kind of pushing it and just kind of seeing as much as we can get, really. But yeah, I just kind of think it's that type of situation where we look at those teams like in the French league. I don't think they might go up to 60, but I think kind of looking at the approach with Chelsea or something, we've got to push it up, really.
Oh, if it's Chelsea and Todd Bowley, I'm rinsing them for everything they're worth, trust me. What's your minimum offer? Deadline day. Take it or leave it. What are you taking?
Slightly between what's been touted and what the caller said. So, anywhere from between 40 and 60 mil.
Wow.
I'm saying definitely with Chelsea, we should go for at least 50. Whether we'll get that is another matter, but you should certainly aim for as much as that.
Can I tell you where I stand, right? Chelsea, I actually wouldn't go a penny below 50.
Yeah.
I'd say it's 50. That's the price for you. Pay it or leave it. Other clubs, Monaco, West Ham, Fulham, 40 would be my minimum. And I actually think Arsenal will do a deal at around 38. But the reason I say 40 is my minimum is because next year, when he's got a year left on his contract, I think you're getting about 35 anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd rather run the risk and say, and you've still got a January window to go, where maybe clubs are more desperate, they're struggling for goals, they're not, the relegation battle heats up, and they become a little bit more desperate. They think, well, Balogun's just sitting there, and we saw him score a load of goals. All right, we'll pick him up and we'll pay the 35. I just think there's
also the risk that you're potentially having a disaffected player on your books for another year. Does Arteta want that?
Yeah, but I think everyone needs to understand in football that there's three parties, the buyer, the seller, the player, and it's got to work for all of them. I don't think Balogun could, I'm not saying he is, but I don't think he could unreasonably expect Arsenal to do a deal that they're not happy with and go, well, we just need to get it done. And Arsenal have a history of cancelling contracts and just accepting things they don't really want to accept because they felt that long term it was investment towards getting the players off the books. But actually now we're at a stage where the squad is in a really good, healthy place. We've got a young player who's worth a lot of money. And I still think, like I said, you'd get 35 in January, and I think you'd get 35 next summer. So I wouldn't go below 40 because I don't think you'd get that much next year.
No, I don't think you can go. I mean, look at the guy's attributes. We know that he's quick. We're hearing that he's 2-footed. He's got good technique, intelligent movement. He scores goals. He's young, you know what I mean? He's a USA international. All of those things collectively add up to at least 40 mil by today's standards.
I would think so. Mats, would you have given him more of a chance? Would you have played him more and seen him?
Yeah, to be honest, because I think the only game we've ever really seen him play is the Brentford game, like the first game of the season. And
Dropped
he kind of...
deep end, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think all the players kind of had COVID, and it was kind of the situation, especially it was a Friday night game, first game of the season for Brentford after many years. But I think, to be honest, with if Mikel Arteta is with him every day, he probably knows something that we don't in terms of that regard. I think kind of the last caller said about his attitude. I think, to be honest, strikers are a bit unhinged. They're kind of similar to goalkeepers, how they're in their own world to a certain degree. And you know what? I like the fact that at least he's I want to play. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, even if it even as an Arsenal fan, ideally you want him to be here, but like if he's gonna go play somewhere else, you at least got to admire that to a certain degree. But I just think it's one of those situations where it's kind of, let's sell him and let's just see what we can do in, I guess, a short space of time.
I mean, they've got that saying, that old saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So as I was saying, it could be that behind the scenes he's agitated. Now, how he's done that, I don't know, but it would appear that he's communicated to the club that he wants to play, and we're hearing. I mean, I read today actually, sources are saying that he would be open to a move to Chelsea. So that suggests to me a young man. He feels, listen, I'm of that age now. I'm mature enough. I've got the physical attributes. I've gone out on loan last season. I scored a bag of goals. I've just recently become a USA international. I need to play.
Yeah, agreed. Matt's absolute pleasure to chat to you, mate. Thank you.
It's great speaking to you guys. Have a great day.
Nice one. Thanks for the call.
All right, before we talk to more callers, I want to bring up Nicolas Pepe and what's been happening there. I'm going to take these off for a second, actually. And the reason I want to talk about Pepe is because he's reflected on really strangely, Nicolas Pepe. I actually think, and listen, I'm not sitting here saying I'm his biggest fan or doing revisionism and reflecting indifferently, because what do they say, that a player's stock rises most when you don't see them? Suddenly when they come back, I remember when Nicholas Bentner went on a load of loans and then he came back because we needed some depth up front, and I thought, Bentner used to score the odd goal, didn't he? And Bentner, listen, he was awful. I think with Nicolas Pepe, right, in a world of Sanchos and Antonys and Mudryks, Pepe was never as bad as them. I really genuinely believe that. I think Arsenal were a mess, and then he was playing on the right at a time where Arteta and Arsenal were trying to evolve. Then I think they found that very difficult, because Pepe, I think, is a free-spirited player. Let me just sniff where the ball's going to go. Let me find pockets in the area. Let me just try to take on a few players centrally out wide, wherever I feel like I'm having fun. And Arsenal's system is, no, we want our wingers really high and wide. We want you to hug the touchline. We need you to keep the pitch really stretched, and you're not going to get the ball, and you're going to be annoyed that you're not getting the ball. But the reason you're not getting the ball is because you're actually making space for Erdegaard to play and Jesus to play and whatever. And I just think Pepe didn't suit. So when you look at, actually, his output was very decent, most of it, a lot of it in the Europa League, but he had some great runs in the Premier League, saw some great goals. Should we be entertaining transfer fees and offers? If so, how much for? And would you be tempted to reintegrate him into the team in some capacity?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the word reintegration there, because up until a couple of days ago, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen with Pepe. I was being led to believe, based on what I read, was that Arsenal were looking to reintegrate him into the team. And now it would appear that that situation might be changing.
Well, should I give you the exact bit of news?
Sure.
So, according to Fabrice Hawkins, who is a journalist at RMC Sport, Tier 1, apparently, we know on Twitter they're always tiering these journalists to tell you how believable it is, how excited you should get. An unnamed Saudi club is negotiating with Arsenal for Pepe and are offering a transfer fee. All right, so what is that transfer fee and what would you take?
Well, listen, we all know as Arsenal fans, Nicolas Pepe arrived at the club in 2019 in a blaze of glory, 72 million, I think it was a club record at the time. And a lot of the fans, myself included, were very excited. We'd all seen the YouTube clips of him dancing down the wing, beating players, scoring goals. And we thought, yeah, man, he would fit very nicely into what we're trying to do at Arsenal. We have to be honest and say, didn't quite work out. You touched on a few of the reasons why it just wasn't a best suit. It didn't quite fit with what the manager wanted, which is a bit of a shame, because talent-wise, he is a very talented player. But as we know in football, just because you're talented doesn't mean to say it's going to work at a particular club. I think he had something like 80 appearances and 16 goals for Arsenal. Some of those goals were very good goals as well, free kicks and outside the box strikes. So listen, we know the guy's got talent. For whatever reason, didn't quite work out. He might be another one similar to Balogun, who's thinking, you know what, if I can't get the requisite minutes and time here, maybe I need to move on.
Yeah.
And he's a bit older than Balogun. He's 28.
If I'm predicting, I think he does go. I think late in the window, because if I were a buyer, I'd be thinking, Arsenal aren't demanding that much from what we understand, from what we read or whatever. And you're thinking, well, you know what? Is he not worth a £10 million, gamble for someone? And okay, we don't know what the player salaries, are looking like. We don't know all that. We don't know what his demands are potentially. But I think there's an opportunity there to get a player who's got really good kind of final third product, and get a player in who I think how was he still 27?
He's 28 now.
Okay, I think he's worth the risk. I'd say he's even worth the risk for a Premier League team. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I really don't think he's a terrible player at all.
No, he's a very talented player.
He's 6'2". He's quick. He's got good feet. But will Arsenal and Arteta give him another chance? Here's where I am with it. We're gonna go to the callers now and talk about Pepe. My answer on it is, if you're getting Kudus in, and you're getting Kudus in, then I'd take anything. He's not going to play. Just at least get the wages off the books. Maybe a £5 million, £10 million transfer fee. It's not good enough, but okay, on you go, and at least the saga's done. But if you don't get anyone in, I'd keep him. I'd say 15 million, no less. And if you're not going to pay him well, Nicolas Pepe, let's try and make this work then. And I think he'd probably think, I'm 28. This might be my last shot to make it work at Arsenal. So I think it all depends on whether they're looking at an alternative. I'm not sure we have a natural alternative to Saka on the right. Vieira's played there before. Nelson could play out there, but I think they prefer central and left spaces. So I would try and have someone who.
It's interesting you mentioned Fabio Vieira there, because that situation with Fabio Vieira is starting to look very much like what happened with Pepe. Okay, the transfer fee was nowhere near as much, but in terms of how they operate, how they've been used, or the lack of game time they've been given, and how they're affecting games, it's sort of shaping up to be a similar scenario. I mean, listen, I personally think with Pepe, that ship has sailed. I think the club should really be actively seeking to get him out and to try and recoup as much money on the deal as you can. Obviously, you're not going to get anywhere near the 72 million that you paid, but listen, this is football, happens. I do think Arsenal do need to be proactive in, as you called it, James, outgoings. We need to get these guys that are not going to feature regularly or not in the manager's long-term plans out of the club, try and get as much money for them as possible, because we have spent a lot of money already on the incomings, and we do need other places in the team to be filled. So I think, the outgoings is quite an important factor.
Yeah, I agree.
The end of the transfer window looming.
Let's go to callers. Let's talk to Tara, I believe, is joining us on Fanzone. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very, very good. How you feeling about Arsenal?
Mixed at the moment. The first two games were a bit up and down, but it's only the first 2 games. So let's not go overboard there.
Fair enough. Got high standards. I respect it. Let's talk about Nicolas Pepe. What fee would you take for him, or is there any part of you that wants to reintegrate him into the team?
If we have to sell him, nothing less than 15, like you said, nothing less than 15 million, because there is a player there. As you also mentioned, he's better than Anthony. He's better than Sancho. 15 million, that's a steal, basically. If we can't get rid of him, why not reintegrate him back into the team? His last scoring season, he scored 16 odd goals, I believe it was, or something around there. So it's not like he doesn't score goals. He just needs time to relax into our system, which I don't think Arteta gave him.
Am I being ultra hopeful and slightly delusional when I say, actually, Arsenal, when we look at all the years he's been at Arsenal have been a little all over the place. Even his final season he was with us, we had a decent impact off the bench. I remember that Wolves game where we won 2-1, that kind of stuff. Arsenal still lost 13 Premier League games. Like, we were still a very hot and cold team. And actually, the minute we became a serious side, it's chicken and egg. Did we lose players like Pepe, Cedric, and we got to that level? Or did we get to that level? And actually, Pepe, maybe, like, if we have our best 11 out and it's him on the right instead of Saka, I mean, I don't think he's as good as Saka, but do you get a better Pepe is what I'm asking. And I do think these are intriguing questions. To point to the numbers, he got 5 goals and 6 assists in his first season. So that's 11 goals and assists in 30 games. So a goal or assist 1 every 3 games. The season after, in the Premier League, he got 10 goals and just the 1 assist. But again, 10 goals in 29 Premier League games. He was doing his thing in the Europa League. So, these weren't terrible numbers when he was kind of a regular.
He's got 16 overall rather than.
Well, he's got
16 GA.
Yeah.
27 goals, 21 assists. So that's basically you're on the brink of 50 there in 112 games. It's not a terrible.
Sorry, when I said 16 goals, I meant Premier League goals. Yeah.
Oh, in total, right, fine. But like I said, so he's got 48 goals and assists in 112 games for Arsenal, and I know a lot of them in the Europa League. I mean, I think I'm just counting here, 8, 9 of them are. I mean, it's not a terrible output at all. I mean, that's nearly 1 in 2.
Well,
again, when I look at the Pepe situation and I look at the seeming relationship between himself and the manager, I get that feeling that the manager doesn't really trust Pepe. Often when I'll be watching Pepe, we're playing, he'd be once the first one's hooked. You know what I mean? And it would happen on a regular basis. And I just feel that, again, I spoke about it earlier, I just don't think as a fit for the manager, Pepe was what he was looking for.
Yeah, I agree.
So he became surplus to requirements. He's gone out on loan to Nice. I think he started quite well there. I think something like 19 appearances, 6 goals. But even there, apparently there was a period of loss of form. And I think he lost his place in the side for a while. But as I said, there is a player there. And if we can, try and recoup some of the money that we lost on him, then I think we should do it.
Okay, Tara, final question then. 7 million, take it or leave it, but that 7 million allows you to get Kudus. Do you do it?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. I'd even drive him to the airport. See you later.
I think that's what it is. I think it's actually if we can get the other player in, I think we'll stomach whatever cost we lose out on. Tara, you've been great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Always a pleasure, man. Join us again. Right, who have we got next to chat to us on Fanzone? Brandon's joining us. Brandon, how you doing, mate? Good to see you again.
How we doing, James? All right?
Yeah, all good, all good. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, and I don't know where we might have spoken about this. Maybe I've seen you speaking about it on other channels, but are you a Pepe fan, or you appreciated Pepe? I might be wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong.
I don't mind Nicolas Pepe.
Right.
I do think that his loss of form coincided with Mikel Arteta joining Arsenal. I do think it's a system problem that he was having, because under Unai Emery, I actually think Nicolas Pepe thrived because of the way that we played football, the way we attacked, whereas Mikel Arteta clearly wants to do something different. He wants to be more possession-based. And for me, retaining the ball is probably one of Pepe's weaknesses. I think, when you've got a 2v1 against Pepe, he really struggles. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I don't know if you caught me saying it about 10 minutes ago, that he feels to me like almost if Jurgen Klopp had him, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of looked very good, because I can imagine him just sort of attacking very narrow, sort of getting to darting spaces in front of goal and all that. At Arsenal, where you're asked to hug the touchline and just almost be very patient in games. It doesn't feel like his forte, but there's definitely talent there. And I want to ask you the question I've been asking everyone else, kind of where do you sit on his departure and transfer fees and what it means for other incomings? Like, what do the dynamics have to be for either you to keep him or you to actually say, do you know what, I'm just happy for him to go?
See, it's a funny one, James. You asked me all this. I actually think in terms of our departures, it's been a bit of a disgrace, to be fair.
I think that's fair.
I talk about this, about Edu, on a regular basis, and okay, you can accept he's done a good job in terms of the contract renewals this summer. He's done a good job in terms of the players that he's brought in, but they're not the only two factors to a transfer window. A large factor is outgoings. What can you get? Who are you going to move on? How much money can you move them on for? And apart from Turner and Granit Xhaka, they're the only two notable departures so far. And there's still so many players, James, that we need to move on from this football club. Cedric, Holding, Lokonga, Tavares. I could reel off players.
Yeah.
And instead of instead of kind of pushing them to one side first, we're getting rid of Balogun, which is fine, no problem. If you want to move Balogun on because he's got a bit of hype surrounding him now, you can get a large fee for him. That makes sense. But make sure that money gets invested back into the squad, because we still haven't done enough in this transfer window to win the league title. And I'm saying that here, I'm saying that now, and I'll explain it, right? Arsenal in the last 8 games of the season, their singlest biggest issue was conceding goals. And of course, William Saliba being out injured played a large factor in that. But we need to strengthen defensively, because as of right now, with Timber being out injured, and it's going to be a long-term injury, and Kieran Tierney not even making the bench for Arsenal, it's looking like he's going to be moving on. We actually have less defensive cover than what we had last season. And we've got to play more games this season, because you've got to play your strongest lineup in the Champions League. So it's inevitable. There is going to be more injuries throughout the squad. There's going to be players that are going to pick up injuries. And I just worry that if we don't go out there and replace Timber and you know, get ourselves a cover for Bukayo Saka, or even another midfielder or striker, whatever it may be, we're going to fall short again this season. And I can see that right now.
Do you have those doubts, Folarin?
Well, I did express earlier on in the show, we talked about the importance of outgoings, and it's crucial because, as the caller quite rightly said, you've got all these players that are there at the club. And I mean, whatever happened to El Neni? What's going on? I know he's injured, but, you know.
This is another player, though, Laurie, that should be moved on.
Yeah, they might be.
You know,
it should be.
I know. I understand all of this. El Neni's a nice guy, and you know, Arsenal like him being around the squad and stuff like that. But the fact is we're competing for a league title this season, and we're going up against arguably one of the best teams that football has ever seen in Manchester City. You know, and you cannot just keep these players here just because, oh, he's a nice guy. You know, he's a nice guy. We'll give him a new contract. Oh, he got injured. The fact is, can you do the job that is required? Is El Neni good enough? No. Is Tavares good enough? No. These players need to be moved on. The money needs to be recouped and spent on better players to give ourselves a better chance of going on and winning the league. And I'm not a fan. To be fair, I'm not a fan of the system that Arteta has been playing in the last 2 games. And I made that very clear because, you know, the Thomas Partey inverting into midfield, I know it's not a long-term thing and it's probably only until Zinchenko comes back. But if we continue on with that, we will get exposed at some point. You know, we got exposed against Forest and we was lucky to come out of that with 2-1. Even towards the last 10, 15 minutes against Crystal Palace, we was, you know, there was creating chances, nothing really clear cut. But if you're playing that sort of way up against, you know, better teams, we will get exposed, boys.
Well, it remains to be seen.
And the other thing to add on to that as well, in terms of players needing to make way, is that you often hear managers say, and I'm not saying I've heard Arteta say this, but you will often hear managers say they like to work with a finite squad. Like a certain amount of players, because they consider the rest to be surplus to requirements.
Right.
And as a caller pointed out, and I mentioned myself earlier, you've got all these guys that seemingly the manager's not really keen on. So it serves everyone's best purpose if they're moved on.
I think that's part of why we're finding it hard to sell certain players, that actually it's been made very obvious they're not a part of the plan. So like Mount and Havertz went for, I think, astronomical fees for the players they are. And I still am very much reserving judgment on Havertz, and I see some of the good things he does, and I have my doubts about other things. But let's take Mount and Havertz, what they've done in the last year or few years for Chelsea, and they've gone for 65 million each, I believe. And you look at that and you go, but why is that? Well, I actually think part of it is because as much as they struggled, they were still playing football, and maybe put it down to the club struggling, and maybe put it down to the manager not being very good. And with Pochettino arriving, there was probably a mystery around whether he'd want to use them. Whereas with Cedric, Tavares, Balogun, Pepe, it's very clear Arteta doesn't want to use them, and that's fine, but he doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you say all of this, James, but if I go back a few seasons ago, right, I remember Liverpool getting £25 million for Dominic Solanke, who'd never kicked a ball really for Liverpool. Point. I think he played 1 game. So I think it comes down more to negotiations, like skills. I'm not so sure that Edu's that great in that department, but we'll have to wait and see. We've still got 7 days to go, but there's still so much for Arsenal to do.
Yeah, there really is. Brandon, been great chatting to you. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Yeah, great call.
Catch you
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Brandon. Right, who's next? We're going to have to be, apologies, we're going to have to be a bit snappier on these. Mans is joining us. Mans, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Sorry that this call's going to have to be a bit quicker. We do just want to know, though, I want to sort of really get your thoughts on Balogun, Pepe. What fees would you take? How are you feeling about those players moving on? Would you want to keep them instead? Just your thoughts in general, mate.
My thoughts in general is we have 9 days left until the end of the transfer window, and I don't think we have too much room to negotiate anymore. So at this point, if I'm looking at Balogun, and we really do have the offers we do, as you said, 35 from Fulham. I'm not sure if we do, but if we do, I wouldn't mind selling him to Chelsea. If Chelsea are really offering 45 or 50 million more than the rest, then I would actually take that. I don't have a problem with that. In my lifetime, I only know 2 strikers that have done well at Chelsea. I'm not really too petrified of just selling Balogun to Chelsea and think he's going to become the next Didier Drogba or something like that. But if Arsenal is scared of that, they can probably insert something into that contract, buyback clause or something like that.
That's not. I mean, that's a good. Chelsea have a horrific record with strikers.
They do.
So maybe. What about Pepe though?
Oh, sell at any price.
Really?
You were just saying. I hope it's true. The Saudi club, and you were saying they're actually offering a transfer fee. As if it's a surprise, because it is a surprise. Any transfer fee they're offering, take it. We need him off the wage bill. He's not good enough for Arsenal. Actually, somebody could make a point about Balogun and say Balogun has not really received any chance at Arsenal because he's a young man. He hasn't really had time to be given a chance. Pepe has gotten a lot of chance at Arsenal. He's played under Emery. Arteta has tried to integrate him into the squad.
Yeah, in a few ways.
A few times. I just think he lacks the attributes. I think we'll lose a lot by playing him even as a backup. So I'd rather sell him at any price. And I think we get rid of Pepe, we get rid of Balogun. I think we have enough money to go and get Kudus, although I'm really reserved on him as well because everybody that comes from Ajax in that position has not really hit the ground running. People like Ziyech, Anthony.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So when you think about Kudus playing, he plays exactly almost in that position. But as a backup, I'd rather take him and give a chance to somebody new rather than keep Pepe and try to integrate him back into the squad. So at this point, 9 days left, there's no room to negotiate. Sell players, as many as you can. I don't hear anything about Holding being sold for apparently a Besiktas try to come at some point. We're trying to sell them at maximum prices. Lads, we're not going to sell these players at very high prices. They're not good enough to be sold at, high price. I know the previous caller is just, mentioned Dominic Solanke, but that's almost a freak. It's just something that happened
because you got a guy like Mavropanos who was at Arsenal. Indeed, he was behind Holding in the pecking order at Arsenal, and now it looks like he's going to West Ham for what I would say was it 40 mil, something like that.
Well, and I always quite like
That's
Mavropanos.
quite an interesting.
I'm genuinely not even saying this now. I always thought Mavropanos.
I think at Stuttgart he was praised. Stuttgart rate him very highly as well.
But I think it's fair to say that at Arsenal he was behind Holding in the pecking order, which is why he went. So
He was 100%.
it's interesting to see how things have come full circle now. And he's
How
been
much did West Ham pay
shortlisted
for
by
him?
West Ham. I heard something in the region of 14 mil today. I don't know.
Let me have a little look. Mavropanos.
There's no way we're selling Holding for 14 mil.
Did it Mavropanos about 17 million?
Oh, 17. Oh, even more.
Wow, plus 4 million.
That's because that's because Stuttgart are not really desperate to sell, and they know West Ham have the Declan Rice money. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually.
Prices in the transfer market depend also on how desperate the club is for a player. It doesn't just depend on the value of the player. I don't necessarily think Mavropanos is worth 17 million, but West Ham needed him
as well that the Saudi Arabian market has opened up, so it could be that.
Yeah, but
you spoke about Pepe. The likes of him might be open to a move. Cedric, people like that.
Saudi clubs are very reserved to pay high transfer fees. What they do is they offer very good wages, which is why everybody is running there. But they don't necessarily pay a lot, like above the odds. I don't think they're offering anything more than 5 million for Pepe, but I'd take that. I'd take that to get him off our wage bill.
Significant loss, given that we paid.
We're always going to make a loss at this. We're always going to make a loss.
Mans, you made some great points. Pleasure to chat to you, mate. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to chat to you guys. Good show.
Soon.
Yeah, we must call back.
Thank
Good
you.
call.
Yeah, definitely join us again. Fatah, we've got our final caller of the day. Javi's in. Javi.
Hey.
How you doing, my friend?
Very well. How are both of you doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
good.
man, good.
You get the final say on all this. Give us some prices for Balogun and Pepe that are fair.
All right, so the Balogun situation. Here's the reality. His highest market value is going to be this summer. He just made a switch to the U.S. He scored, 20 plus goals in Liga, and this is the highest that he's going to go for. And even though I'm usually against selling to rival clubs, I would sell him to whoever is willing to pay the most amount of money. And I think that 35 million for a striker who just scored 20 goals in a top 5 league is ridiculous. Because look at, I have written down Morata, Werner, Vlahovic, Isak, Jovic, Darwin Nunez. Looking for the transfer fees that those strikers went for, and most of them didn't even crack 20 goals. And the fact that Balogun just made his allegiance to the U.S., the amount of money that you're going to make on shirt sales alone is going to be way more than whatever you're going to, pay in terms of a transfer fee, because you're going to attract a whole entire fan base from what is easily the country that consumes the most in terms of sport, in a sport that's growing over there exponentially. So also with Chelsea, they have such a bloated squad, and there's so much turmoil and there's so much rumors about, just a very unhealthy and toxic environment, that I actually don't believe that Balogun going over there is going to be that much of an asset for them. If anything, whenever I see Chelsea making a new signing, I think it just shows a lack of understanding, a lack of a plan, a lack of an actual direction. And so I genuinely believe that Balogun going over there, wanting first, team football, and creating a rivalry with Jackson, who they signed for big money, is just going to create more issues. And I can only imagine also financial fair play knocking on their door very soon, and Todd Bowley doesn't seem to know what he's doing. So if a club is in turmoil, you selling them a player for 50, 60 million, are you helping them or are you actually hindering them? I think it's actually going to be more of an issue.
And
in regards to Pepe,
sorry
go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry to cut you. I feel really bad saying this, but I'm not sure. From the little I've seen, it is very little. I'm not sure I rate Balogun enough to be that worried about him going to Chelsea. And now he's going to score a hat-trick for Chelsea against us at Stamford Bridge, I'm sure. But my thing is, listen, I can't ignore that he has a very good record at under-21s, that he went to France and scored a load of goals, and he's clearly a talented goal scorer. I'm just not sure I've seen enough. I trust Arteta's talent ID enough to just feel like, yeah, but look at the other clubs that are in them. Chelsea are quite reckless in the market, and then it's Monaco, Fulham, West Ham. Good clubs, some big clubs there. But this isn't Real Madrid sniffing. This isn't Bayern Munich. This isn't, in the way when Havertz was being sold by Chelsea and Bayern Munich were in the race and Real Madrid, and everyone's like, what? Why would they possibly want him? We don't even have that shock, if that makes sense. That sense of there's clubs that make you think, we really want to keep him. In the same way that when reports came out yesterday that Brighton want Lokonga, I immediately went, no, he's ours. I was more than happy to sell Lokonga. The minute Brighton wanted him, I was like, oh no, but I trust them. So actually, maybe we should keep him. I don't have that with Balogun, is what I'm saying.
I mean, you're talking about a guy, like I said, he's been at the club since a very young age. He signed a contract with the club in 2019. He's been there a long, long time. You would have thought that if he was going to figure in the manager's plans, he would have made more of an impact by now. We barely saw him in pre-season, and we've not seen him since the season started. I think it's fairly safe to assume that for whatever reason, the manager doesn't quite fancy him. So that being said, as much as we would have liked to have seen what he's got, the manager works with these guys every day. He's probably assumed that, good player, but he's not quite what I'm looking for. He's way down the pecking order. I think surely, yeah. I think it's incumbent on the club to sell. I think it's a two-way street as well.
What do you think on Pepe? Sorry, Javi, you were about to start before I rudely interrupted you.
Bro, I'd rather start win over him.
Not win. Don't do that to win. You see how kicked Saka gets. I couldn't watch that. Really, you do not rate him at all.
Nicolas Pepe, to me, represents everything that I hate about football. He is a player who has so much ability and skill. So when he gets a 19-year-old kid from Norwich and he skins them, everybody on Twitter loses their mind and think he's, the reincarnation of Pele. And realistically speaking, this is a player who had 18-year-old, 19-year-old Bukayo Saka starting over him.
Yeah,
and
he did.
when you look at the complexity, especially of this new system that we're playing right now, I mean, come on, James. You know that Pepe can't play in that system.
I don't believe he can. No,
he can't. He can't. And it's just get rid of him. I mean, people talk about 15 million, this, that. Dude, I'll pay you 15 million to get rid of him. Like I don't want this guy around the squad. I don't want Holding. I don't want Oneni. I don't want Cedric. You know, you said that. Does Pepe, if he starts over soccer in this Arsenal team, is he a better player? Yeah, but so am I. You know, put me at right wing playing for Arsenal Football Club. I'll look a lot better than I do playing at my local park, you know, with a bunch of guys who don't know, you have 2 left feet. You know what I mean? Like, anybody would look better. So let's just get rid of whoever, you know, the only player that survived this transition was Granit Xhaka. And even he was moved on. Maybe because of an age thing, maybe because it was just a new challenge, or because Arteta understood that if we want to go up to the next level, now is the time to go ahead and bring in a top level player like a Rice.
I would like to say one thing though. I do think it's important to make the distinction between someone being a good player, a very talented player, and whether that talented player suits your club, suits your systems that you play. And you know, the likes of Pepe, it would appear doesn't, certainly as far as Arteta is concerned. So we should move him on, because, you know, he's had opportunities. He's not quite lived up to the billing. Yes, we paid a lot of money for him, but, you know, this is the nature of the football world. It's shark-infested waters. It's a real beast. So if he doesn't quite work at Arsenal, then we should be looking to move him on. I agree with the caller, bring in somebody else.
And football's about systems more than ever before. So, fair play. Javi, always a pleasure to chat to you, man. We'll always see you on the spaces, and of course we're running more fan zones and on full time. Everyone go check out Javi's work. Like I said, he's always here joining us.
He's always
here.
a great call, man. Always,
and he's disappeared. That was savage from production. There, he's still there. He's just...
Keep calling, man. Keep calling. I always enjoy the call.
We'll do
it in a bit, man.
Take care, gents.
In a bit. Production man, get rid. Always a pleasure chatting to have you guys. Some fantastic callers today. I think we had 7 of you on, and we really enjoyed that chat. We're going to be doing this around twice a week when possible. Of course, the return of the Champions League will impact that in some ways, but of course that also means more full-time shows as well. So big thanks to everyone who's joined. Laurie, big thank you to yourself. You've been absolutely fantastic. Oh, I can
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I'm absolutely melted in my seat, but I'm not complaining. I mean, I am a little bit, but I'm not complaining. I was getting on some super chats super quick. Ricky says 6 points in 2 games is a good start, but we are clearly lacking quality at number 9. Nketiah consistently missing sitters. Why sell a striker at this point? NYC Live says, Bars fan here. Wish Barca could go after Balogun. We really need a striker, and we can get him for 35 million. AJD says, I think the reason Balogun's not getting much game time is because he talks. I don't think Arteta's a fan of players like that. Managers tend to like action. Guys, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your super chats as well. It's been an absolute pleasure running this live with my good friend Laurie. Of course, content will be coming out across the channel throughout the week. I have got, can you see it? Guys, sack of merch. The link's in the description below, and also you can find all the merch and everything we are offering. You can support your players in a different way by going to AFTV Plus app, and there's lots of tops with your favourite players and all that. Go check it out. We've got sweatshirts, so they're a bit hot for all that. Mugs, maybe just like mugs as well. To have your morning.
Whatever they want, we've got it.
Whatever you want, we've got it. Big thanks, everyone. See you very soon.